ABC's Don Daler is in northern Afghanistan, where he has spent time in the field with the rebels.
This is the image of itself Afghanistan's Northern Alliance would like to present to the world. A well-trained, well-equipped fighting force, viable and vital. But soldiers in crisp uniforms and mechanized weaponry are in reality a very small part of this army. Gulen Kadar has fought for the alliance for 6 years. When he heard the air bombardment was about to begin, he brought his family out of their Taliban-controlled village, past the front lines, and to a refugee camp near the town of Hoja Baudin. The bombing, he says, was a good opportunity to bring my family from there to here. Here isn't exactly paradise. Conditions in the refugee camp are rough. Dust storms a common annoyance, disease the constant enemy. But his wife and 5 children are now safe from the bombs and safe from the Taliban. Kadar made sure his family was settled in, sharing food in a small hut with some relatives, and then joined up with a group of men heading back to the front. As long as the Taliban exists, I will fight them, he says. Until there's peace in the country, I will be fighting. The fight is not far away. The front to which Kadar is headed is half a day's trip from the refugee camp. It's a journey we took a few days earlier to find out what kind of men make up the Northern Alliance and how they've been able to hang on for 5 years of defeat after defeat after defeat. There are few roads in this part of Afghanistan, at least in the western sense of the word. Trucks and cars and donkeys follow a well-worn path that grows wider in places where it makes more sense to swerve around rather than drive through gaping potholes. And it's a true pioneer who leaves the beaten track and risks discovering one of the estimated 10 million landmines still scattered around this parched countryside. We hear there are parts of Afghanistan that are lush and green. This is not one of them. One of the hazards of driving around here with all this dust is the fuel filter gets constantly clogged, and you can see it's just full of stuff like that. We're ultimately headed to a village named Zard Kamar, where there are reports of firefights with Arabic-speaking Taliban soldiers who are allegedly members of Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda organization. Passing through small villages on the way, the thought occurs, not in any way original, that life somehow goes on, despite decades of war and a 4-year-long drought and crushing poverty and deadly disease, and that life, to our eyes, is a fascinating visit to Old Testament times. In between pockets of humanity where regular people struggle to grow things and make things and raise their children, there are half a dozen fronts in this stagnant war, with control over a couple hundred yards here and there shifting every few months. But over the entire course of the war, the Northern Alliance has been losing steadily and badly. And with the recent assassination of their legendary leader, Ahmed Shah Massoud, whose hawk-like features peer out from every truck and every home, hope for victory over the Taliban was almost gone. The attention of the world has breathed new life, and reportedly new equipment, into the effort. Americans are warmly welcomed here.
We'll have the remainder of Don Daler's report behind the battle lines in Afghanistan when we come back.
This is ABC News Nightline.
In the rugged terrain of northern Afghanistan, the opposition forces known as the Northern Alliance battle the Taliban daily. ABC's Don Daler tried to get a first-hand look at the alliance's front line. Here's part 2 of that report.
The general tells us there's too much fighting where we were hoping to go, but we may be able to get into another part of the village.
And this place is the village of Zard Kamar.
This is where we wanted to go.
Yes.
Where's the Taliban? Where's the enemy here?
Taliban
Right. And the enemy is here,
And we can go.
We can go here and the enemy is in this place.
So it's not too dangerous to go here.
At the edge of the front, with artillery and rifle fire audible in the distance, we abandoned the vehicle and set out on foot.
This village that we just walked by, are there people living there?
No, just 2 person.
Just 2 persons.
Yes, 2 person
Everybody else
living.
left because
Yes.
it's too dangerous.
Yes.
Everybody except the Alliance soldiers, whom only months ago wrested this village from the control of the Taliban.
Could you ask them how? Could you ask him how old he is, the young one here?
چند سال هستی میگم باشه 16 ساله 16 years old.
16 years old. And the gentleman next to him?
این دیگه چند ساله 18 years old.
18.
The Quran says, even in jihad, the lives of the innocents must be spared. But innocence itself is the first casualty. As we near the actual front lines, the Alliance soldiers we pass are still friendly and curious, but there's a harder look in their eyes. This is the place where the killing and the dying happens. And when they tell us how to avoid snipers when crossing an open area, we listen.
One time.
So this is Zard Kamar, or what's left of it. When the Taliban relinquished it a few months ago, they set fire to anything that would burn. Basically, everything except the mud walls.
You see?
That White House
Yes,
is Taliban?
Yes. Behind this.
Those buildings behind the White House.
Yeah.
Mohammed Naeem is the local commander in charge of Zard Kamar. We asked him about the reports of Al-Qaeda fighters in the area. Yes, it's true bin Laden soldiers are here, he said, at this front line and also at other front lines. We have some prisons, one in Panjshir and others. We captured about 100 Pakistanis, Sudanese, Chechens, and Chinese. All of them belong to bin Laden. Another dash through Sniper's Alley, and we start the long trip back. With our backs to the steady popping of gunfire and the booms of Katyusha rockets, a comment comes to mind the late Afghani hero Masood made sometime before he was killed. The resistance doesn't have to win the war, he reportedly said. The alliance only has to survive long enough for the Taliban to self-destruct. It's always the invader that loses the will to fight. I'm Don Daler for Nightline in Hojabaudin, Afghanistan.
And Don Daler joins us now from northern Afghanistan. Things must have improved a lot over these last few weeks for the Northern Alliance.
Well, they say they have. They're actually very, very happy about the U.S. airstrikes, even though it's hitting their ravaged country itself. They've received material from Russia and possibly Iran. We cannot confirm any material from any other countries such as the U.S. But also they say that the U.S. has been softening up Taliban forces, tank emplacements, that sort of thing. They're holding off on making an offensive, they say, until the positions are softened enough for them to advance across the lines.
And do you have any sense of what their strategic goals are?
I do. They tell us that they are actually going to go for the small villages first, take the countryside. There is a key city to the west of here, Mazar-e Sharif, which has a lot of importance to them. They had it, they held it for a number of years, then they lost it. The legendary Uzbek general Dostum actually has that city reportedly surrounded. That will be one of the larger targets that they're going to go after.
What about Taliban defections? I know they say that they're getting them. Have you seen them? Have you seen any evidence of it?
We've been trying to confirm that. A spokesman for the Northern Alliance, Abdul, has said that 40 commanders of the Taliban have brought 12,000 soldiers with them, simply crossed the lines and switched sides. We have not been able to confirm that, but it is not unheard of in this part of the world. The general I just mentioned, Dostum, is one good example. He was actually a Soviet commander towards the end of the war with the Soviets. He decided, you know, the winds of fortune are blowing the other way. He defected, joined the Mujahideen, and now he's fighting against the Taliban.
Don Daler, many thanks. Look forward to seeing your next report. When we come back, Osama bin Laden's promise today of more terror.